We all look at it as like, well, if he's not there, that's more work for all of us, is the way we think, right, on the floor. The reality is if he's there, or that tech's not there, it really backlogs everything. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting, thought-provoking episode of the Jaded Mechanic Podcast. My name's Jeff, and I'd like to thank you for joining me on this journey of reflection and insight into the toils and triumphs of a career in automotive repair. Things are going well, I hear. 20 years of skin, knuckles, and tool debt, I want to share my perspectives and hear other people's thoughts about our industry. Support yourself with strong coffee or grab a cold Canadian beer and get ready for some great conversation.
In different parts of the country, but so far, we seem to be surviving that. So
we had our first kind of, I'll call them slower days since New Year's last week, which was a nice, and my operation's small, right? Like, well, my role within the operation is small. It's a big operation. In what I do, kind of the outside customer work, this light duty stuff within this giant fleet shop that my boss has is they're pretty busy. They're busy all the time. Me, I got finally caught up on everything, and then none of the fleets tended to break down, so that's good. Yeah. It's it was nice to have a day finally where I just changed my last set of snow tires. Right, so
that's a big thing up there, isn't it? The whole tire swap deal.
It sets our industry up here, Eric, for sure. Like, you get a mad rush, pretty much. You get people start calling end of September. So, which is a blessing, because right after Labor Day, it gets really slow. People's kids go off to school and whatnot. And unless you're getting some of that, mom and dad gave me this car and I drove it, 3 hours off to college or university, and I got here and it broke down. And, if you're not getting that kind of work, nobody's really fixing a whole lot of stuff, because right after Labor Day, nobody has any money. And then you get into, people start calling around beginning of October, looking for prices on tires, snow tires, that kind of stuff. The tire vendors start running promos on prices, and you're hoping to get that work in, right? And you can get some upsells and stuff like that. I don't want to say there's no money, but the margin on tires, if you're paying a high-end tech, like a high-paid tech like myself to do them, the margin's not much. And because of the size of our operation, we've got one other guy, an apprentice, that can kind of flow back and forth, but they're pushing him towards doing the heavy duty stuff in my shop, the buses and stuff like that. So I still end up doing a lot of tires. So it normally tapers off by February, because some people get money at Christmas time and they buy snow tires finally, or the last holdouts. And then it works. And then May, people start, thinking, okay, I can finally take them off. Because we'll get snow in May up here, right? Like, it's not uncommon. Now, we don't get a blizzard that lasts, but I mean, I've seen black ice the first week of May more than once. So, and it's just it's a different thing. So it does drive the industry up here. So, Eric, for the people that aren't familiar, where are you located and your name of the shop is?
So I am located in Southwest Michigan, a little town called Zeeland.
Okay.
The name of the shop is Merchant Automotive.
Right.
Started in 2004.
Okay.
And since day one, we have just focused on GM diesel trucks.
Really?
And specifically just the Duramax stuff. So once in a while, we'd see a 6.5 or something like that. But it's just been, since the beginning, it's been Duramax only.
Yeah.
Once in a blue moon, early on, I kind of dabbled with a couple Fords and a couple of the Cummins, and that was great. And there's a lot of work to be had in there. But I'm a GM guy. I was at the GM dealers before this, and it's just kind of what I knew. So we just kind of stuck with it.
Yeah.
And
we don't see, like, predominantly what we get is a lot of power stroke. They seem to outnumber the Duramax is probably, I'd say probably 10-1 up here. And we don't see a lot of Cummins. I think just because, I mean, I'm a Dodge guy myself, so I always want to say they don't break down, but I know that's not true. It's just,
they're all garbage.
Yeah.
They're all garbage. I mean, they've all got room for improvement. How's that, right?
I think I think it's an interesting perspective. So you say that you then specialize for sure. There's no question about that. You're a specialty shop,
Mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
does that come with more of its own challenges, or does it come with like more? Obviously, I would think that then the benefits outweigh the negatives of being specialized on that one particular. Because we see lots of shops that say they're diesel shops, right? But to go one step further and say, okay, like I just want to do, Duramax. Like, what is that? Are you in an exceptionally dense population of them? Is that kind of?
I don't know what the ratio is locally
Mhm.
as far as like between the brands. Since the beginning, it hasn't been necessarily only pulling locally for the repairs.
Yeah.
So we've kind of been able to spread out in that respect. Years and years ago, before there was when the Duramax was still fairly new, one of the things that we did a lot of was the Allison transmissions, not just fixing them because they really weren't problems with them, but it's in the diesel side of things. The guys want more horsepower and they want to beef them up. Well, at a certain point, the transmission's not going to handle it anymore. So,
Yeah.
got to start real early on doing Allison upgrades, building those up to handle that additional power. And in the beginning, and still to this day, maybe not quite as much, but it wasn't uncommon for people anywhere east of the Mississippi. We had customers come up from the southern states, Florida. We had people from out east, and everywhere in between would make like a weekend trip and come up, and I'd do two of them on a weekend. That was when I was still working in the dealer during the week, and I had a 2-car garage at the time where I started, and it was doing that. So, and then the word kind of spread, and that was back in the forum days before social media and all that. So word kind of spread through that, and that helped gain a wider customer base.
Right.
Nowadays, we don't see as much stuff come from that far away because there's a whole lot of places that they're going to drive past to get to me,
Right.
and a lot of that performance type work hasn't really died off, but with all the emissions and stuff that we have nowadays, it makes it a little more challenging
Yeah.
because obviously we can't really take the stuff off, and that's something I'm glad we never really got involved in, never really counted on it for income, because
Yeah.
man, there's it's just whatever. But how's that for a tangent?
Uh-huh.
The service side of things, historic, that's how it started. I was a service tech in the dealer for 10, 11 years. And that's how the company kind of started. And then it progressed into internet and web sales as well. So
Mhm.
we do online sales for parts that parts that these need, whether it be maintenance parts, repair parts, and that turned into manufacturing parts. So we're making replacement parts, and that just keeps progressing. So we've got the service, we've got an e-commerce side, we've got in-house manufacturing where we're actually building components that way. But the whole thing circles around that Duramax platform. And is it good? I don't know. It's kind of got the benefits of a dealer level pattern failure,
Right. Yeah.
focused on one thing,
Mhm.
but it's got the aftermarket side of it's older and rustier stuff now. And the last 6 months, maybe not even quite 6 months, I'm not gonna lie, I've had a wake up call
Oh,
with what's out there. And what I mean by that is this was the first year I attended Vision.
okay.
And frankly, I never even heard of it
Yeah.
before that. I'm stuck in my little world, and I don't know. It's been an eye opening last few months in this whole world of business.
So to backtrack a little bit, so you were saying what? So you'd have like two customers a week bring you like essentially drive their truck up from somewhere. You pull the Allison out, go through it all, upgrade it, rebuild it, put it back in the truck.
I was doing two a day on Saturdays. I'd work on Saturdays on the weekend, and I'd have them set up where they'd usually come up, like Friday, and I'd have the first guy there at 7. The first truck there at 7. And keep in mind, these trucks are fairly new at the time. We're not dealing with a bunch of rusty stuff.
Yeah.
And that one, I'd pull it out, go through it, put all the upgrade parts inside, a torque converter, that kind of thing, and usually have that one done 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then I start on the next one. And by around 11 o'clock at night, I was wrapping up the second one. That left me my Sundays free.
Yeah.
And then again, most of those people were kind of hanging out.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So I mean, I I mean that's impressive. That's a long day. You know what I mean? To
It's a
build
long day.
to build that business up after doing the dealership thing of pulling trannies all week long, right? Like it. How's your shoulders and back?
Well, we're all getting older.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
all getting older, and I probably can't keep that pace up these days. And it's still fun to go out and see what's what and see if you still got it, so to speak. But now it's like, you're fighting all this rust and that kind of thing. But yeah, it was with the space in the garage was so limited. I'd I'd lift the truck up with or drop the tranny down on the tranny jack, and then I'd wheel it over and wrap a chain around a hoist arm, use the hoist with the truck still on it to get it on the jack onto the fixture. And
Mhm.
at that time, I was building them off of those folding, I don't know, Rubbermaid or the fold up plastic tables that you
Yep.
kind of can fold up and set in the side.
Yeah.
And I had to be careful because you couldn't put a lot of weight on them. And I got 5 gallon buckets for all the oil, and
Yeah.
it was cozy. It was definitely cozy, but the transmissions didn't need a full on overhaul.
Yeah.
They just needed the upgrade part. So that definitely helped and sped things up because I didn't have to gut the thing and clean out a bunch of broken stuff. Typically, it was just some upgrades.
Yeah.
So
So you wound up at Vision, and that was so. When you say you never heard of it, why do you think that is? Because I mean, it's not a new thing, but I mean, that's something,
mm-mm.
a sentiment I hear from more and more people as I get more involved in networking and stuff like that. Is they go, "Oh, I didn't even know of Vision, or I didn't know of Apex, or I didn't know of ASTE." Right? Like, why do you think that is?
For me, I was stuck in my own little bubble.
Mm-hmm.
I I was in this. Most of my focus had been, as far as the professional networking side, we'll call it, has been in the diesel side of things, in the diesel industry, the diesel world, and and there just isn't, or at least I haven't been exposed to just a ton of that general aftermarket professionalism.
Right.
Because again, we're holed up in our diesel thing, and we uh, there's some, I'll call it shop owner ego, and I'm like, well, I know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm I don't know nothing. I'm I am the stereotypical technician turned owner, and I don't. All these stories I've heard, I'm like, oh yeah, they're talking about me. They're talking about me. Yep. And I don't remember exactly how it came about, the whole vision thing, but I remember reaching out to Lucas on Messenger and asked him something about something. And when I did that, and he still gives me grief to this day when I did that, I type his name in and it comes up, and he had sent me a message probably 8, 9 years ago that I never answered. And I
Oh,
don't remember why, but then I answered it like, tell me more about all this stuff. And of course, the first thing he did is give me a bunch of shit for taking 10 years to respond to him. And I try and get that down now to just a couple of days, but he got me excited about it.
yeah.
And talked to a few other people in the industry, and they were going, and a couple of them had actually been there a few years, and I wasn't familiar with them, with those shops. And
Mhm.
it was, like I say, it was amazing. It was like, where the hell have I been?
Yeah,
And
Lucas is infectious, eh? Like just his attitude and his demeanor and his passion for this industry. You can't help but you either you just get fired up being around it, right? Like I mean, it's so cool to see somebody, and he's not the only one. That was the amazing thing for me was once I got to know him and he's kind of introduced me to the other people that are around. I was like, holy crap! Like there's a lot of people that genuinely love to see more and more of us improve and more of us like get out there and talk about the issues that we're all struggling with. Like you said, all these things resonate with you, right? Where it's like, oh, he's talking about me again. He's not talking about you in particular. He's just talking about one of thousands, that we all have made
right,
those. We've all faced those struggles. I don't want to say we've all made the same mistakes, but we've all been down a similar road, right? It's a. I don't want to say that it's a natural progression, but I think what I really like is that they're trying to get more people involved at, don't go so far down the road, right? Here's learn from the other person's mistake. They drew you a map, right? Like but yeah, it's
Yep.
cool. I mean, I didn't make a division. I went to ASTE, and it was like life changing, because I'm just a cat that hung out on Facebook and hung around to different groups and IATN way back in the day. And, I can't remember. I was honestly say when I was in IATN, I think I remember people talking about vision, but it was always just, it seemed to be the same 20 people. They were going again, and it was like, what is it? And then immediately when people were
Mm-hmm.
talking about it, it sounded like it didn't have a lot to offer to somebody unless they were already the elite. And nothing could be further from the truth, right? It's
Oh
these
man,
training,
absolutely not.
there's so much. So when you were going with the intent to kind of help your business out. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and it was the first thing I looked at was a lot of the technical classes,
Mm,
and then I well, maybe I should probably learn something about the actual business side, so, or at least attend a couple of them, maybe some technical and but I really didn't know what to expect. I mean, other people have talked about it, how great it is. So, again, some of the people I've talked to and Lucas and a few others at that time, like, oh yeah, this is definitely worth the trip, definitely all the good stuff.
mm-hmm,
But it wasn't until being there and it was the first class I had, whatever day the first day is, I don't even know. Thursday morning was Cecil,
yes.
and he just and talk about getting introduced to it, with somebody that's not afraid to tell you what's what. But it
Yep.
was just, I again blown away, and shop owner ego. I don't know. There's so much to learn from that kind of thing, and like you mentioned, Apex. I've been going to SEMA and AAPEX for 2007,
Wow.
and I don't. I never realized that all that stuff, those types of training things, are happening at Apex. I'd go to a few of the things at SEMA, but never really went there as an educational thing. I went there as kind of a networking, and then let's find some new products and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I was already just, the hype is coming up for Apex again because it's just a few months away, and I'm thinking I couldn't hardly do that thing in 4 days before. Now it's like, now I got to squeeze in all this other new stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I've never
it's
been.
just,
It's on my bucket list to do is SEMA and Apex. And I mean, and when they started talking about, SEMA and Apex run together at the same time consecutively. And, I always thought I knew what SEMA was. SEMA was where you went to meet like Chip Booth and, all the guys that you see on TV and then, the internet, the big wigs, right? Of the hot rodding and all
oh
that.
yeah,
And I was like, and I had friends that had gone, and they're like, "Oh, you got to see it; it's amazing." And then when they started talking about Apex being there, I'm like, "Well, what is Apex?" Well, Apex is like all the other stuff that you would see, you know, at Vision or ASTE, the business side of it, right? On a level that's bigger than that, combined with it. I'm like, oh man, I gotta. So that's the goal. Hopefully, is this fall is make it to that because I mean I've wanted to go to Apex since a kid, since I was a teenager, because I grew up reading
it's
hot
so
rod
great.
magazines and stuff like that, right? So it's like to see all those guys that like used to have a TV show or I used to read about them on Hot Rod to see them there, but then to get also the training that I can get at Apex and the networking, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm dying to go big time. So
See,
what did you sat down with Cecil in his class? His the first class I attended at ASTU was Cecil's, and I'm not a shop owner. I'm just a tech, right?
mhm.
But I mean, it was so cool to sit in that class and watch all these other people like just their eyes kind of widen up, right, and their ears perk up, and you can start to see the light bulb go off for a lot of them. It's like, wow, that was pretty cool. That gave me a lot of faith, you know if we could get more and more people to attend those kind of events and those kind of classes where he sits down and he's not interested in hearing your excuses for why, you know
Oh hell no!
right, he doesn't.
Cecil is definitely not one to take the excuses. He'll do anything for you except listen to your bullshit. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, can we say that on here? Right? We're okay with that.
for sure, for sure. Yep, no worries there.
But he's been awesome.
Mhm.
But so many people there. Just all these people that were there, and these instructors, and now we start hearing these names through the ASA group and the Changing the Industry group and other Facebook stuff. And there's a lot of pretty damn smart people, or at least pretty down to earth, makes sense. You want to listen to them, what they have to say. People
Yeah, yeah,
that I just I feel like I missed out for years and years and years, and we always hear about it. It's the 20% or the 15% that actually attend these events and do these things and join those groups or whatever. And it's like I don't doubt that for a bit.
yeah. It's
I don't know
and
how, I don't know how you spread the word.
it just makes me when I still see people and it's like I reached I know a couple people in shops and run shops and stuff and you mentioned well I'm on Facebook and they're like oh I don't like Facebook. Facebook is Facebook's to this or Facebook's to that and it's like okay well that's true there is but there's also I mean there's Instagram there's LinkedIn there's TikTok if you want to get into TikTok. I think the point is like it's not about I wish people everybody was on Facebook. I just wish people would finally start to network at the level that I think we need to network, right? Like it's not
Mm-hmm.
anymore where it's just we've got to think, okay, well in my own county or my own town, I got it sewn up and I'm surviving, I'm doing well. We need to start to really look at what people do elsewhere and stop making saying, well, it works there for them because of this reason. And instead just like to start looking at it and going, what they do is really smart, and I need to try and make that work here. If we could just all do that, man, such a different industry
I,
we'd have. It's because it's we're into that situation where we're the technician shortage is right in everybody's face right now. You know what I
oh
mean?
yeah.
And it's I think that that's the only way we start to be able to sell this to the next generation is getting everybody more. I'm not saying you have to do it exactly like the shop, so and so shop. I don't think everybody should be a carbon copy. I like the individuality. But I think we all need to address the big issues, kind of get a little more concise agreement on how to approach some of them, and then work as a team towards that. I think that's huge because, like, what's your setup now? How many employees are working with you?
So there's 17 of us now throughout the whole business.
Right.
In service department, 3 full-time people in service, a writer and 2 techs, and then we still do a lot of transmission builds that we ship complete units out. So I've got kind of splits up a little bit with the service. Like it kind of we're trying to schedule those as well as actual trucks to repair.
Mm-hmm.
And we closed service for a few years, a couple years back, and I think maybe 2 or 3 years now we've had it back up and going again. And it kind of limits things when you just are that specialty shop. So the marketing side of things, we do a lot of different. Well, we do some. I wish we did more, but we're still figuring out what works without just paying Google
Mm-hmm.
for the e-commerce side, the internet side, the
Right.
website side. But to learn how to market to the local people, and for years and years and years, it's just been word of mouth.
Right.
That's how a majority of it has been. Oh, so and so brought their truck here. They're really happy with it. I want you to fix mine.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, that's the most trusting way a customer can come in instead of just coming in cold. But boy, it doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going after that. Sorry.
Well, I was going to ask you because that seems to be kind of my business or it's not my business our business is very much still like that. It's a lot of word of mouth, right? Because we do not have to I mean we advertise a little bit, we have a Facebook post and all that kind of jazz, but we're not like out there with a radio spot and I mean nobody even reads a phone book anymore, right? And the
No.
whole Google thing I don't know, but what I found with the diesel truck side of stuff or the fleet side, I should say, even in my more particular case, is that if you get known as being able to like, you're just honest, you fix it, you keep it reliable, you keep it the wheels turning. it doesn't take long, and it can start to really help. And that's what I find with the diesel guys is that, like, yeah, it's good to be specialized. And if you get known out there as like, oh man, I put 100,000 miles on my truck a year, right, at work. It's an actual work truck, and he puts a transmission together for me and it stays together. That's a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
You've got all their work if you can do that, right? Because they think you're magic at that point, and I mean,
And those types of people do. They're a lot of them are relying on that truck to make a living. You know,
yeah.
if it's a contractor or there's a lot of RV haulers.
Mhm.
We're an hour and a half north of that little corner in Indiana and southern Michigan where they build so many different travel trailers and RVs, and we don't see a lot of business from those people because we're just outside of that circle. But man, there's a ton of hotshot guys on the road that are
I-
going all over the place,
yeah, I was just going to say that.
and they just need their stuff fixed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's like you said, they rely on it, right? And that's the thing people
Yeah.
forget. Like, it's one thing to say, okay, Mrs. Jones is going to bring in her Camry, right? And she's going to drop it off. We're going to do a brake job and, whatever, and oil change and something else on it. And, it's basic transportation. We can give her a loaner car and, have her back in 2 days or whatever and done. That person, not too many operations are running around, but it's like, okay, I'm going to take this guy's hotshot truck and I'm going to pull it off the road and I'm going to tear it down and I'm going to fix it for him. I don't have another truck that I can go and give him to go out there and continue to make money with it, to make work to pay his bill. They plan it around their holidays, right? They plan it around, okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to be, sometimes I find that gets worse because it's like they put off things because it's like it's going to be in the shop for this. So while it's going to be in there, I'm going to have this looked at. That's great. But when everybody does that, then if it was just a scheduled transmission thing, all of a sudden it's a transmission and a front end overbuild, right? Like rebuild.
Yeah.
It starts to really push the scheduling. So, but I like that kind of thing that it's like, I'm working on something that actually isn't just transportation. It is somebody's livelihood. I find it much easier to deal with those kind of people. They just appreciate it, right? So,
They're very open, and I mean,
mhm.
as long as you take care of them, they'll take care of you.
Yeah, yeah. But they do help with they
I
help with the marketing for sure, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah,
It takes you got to make 10 of them really happy for one of them to say something. But
yeah,
boy, I mean, we all know you piss one off, and they're going to tell 10 people, and it's. I mean, we're all human. Things happen.
yeah,
But it's how you take care of it, how you handle it after the fact. So
yeah. Parts
it's
fail,
been yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what's the biggest obstacle you're facing in the business right now?
Me,
Really, eh?
yeah. I think I'm very. I lack a lot of. I need to be better at a lot of things that would help a lot of things. And delegation is something I struggle with. Excuse me. Delegation has always been tough because I feel like I'm a and I'm not by any means, but I feel like I need things done a certain way, a perfectionist type thing. And again, by no means am I that way,
Right.
but I just not very good at helping people come to a conclusion or training them very well in a repetitive manner. I'm just like, okay, I'll just take care of this. I'll just do it myself. And
Right.
that's not very good at all. That's been a big struggle, and I'm learning to work on that. I'm still a long ways to go, and then also just to make sure that I'm reaffirming everybody. Like, I mean, there's 17 people here. There's a lot of people doing a lot of good things every day, and I'm not as good as I need to be at making sure they know that.
Right. Right.
I tend to find the stuff that shouldn't. It's a once in a while issue, and some of it again is okay. What's the process? Do we have a process for this? You know, I'm all about having a process, but I am not the one to write it. I don't have the patience for it. The whole visionary integrator type thing.
Yep.
I
Yep.
feel I feel I should be the visionary, but I've found myself in a position many times where I'm meddling in it
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and frankly in the way and not delegating it properly. And that's probably one of the biggest struggles.
Well, I think it says a lot about your character, though, to be able to even, first of all, recognize that. I think that says a lot for you because I mean, we talk a lot of the time, and I think it's one of the, if you were to ask some of the coaches, the biggest struggle I think that they may face is getting some of the owners to realize that they are the big obstacle in the success of the business, right? And I can understand where,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, it's so hard to take something. I mean, you built it from your backyard into this, not this, to this very successful, thing, and to relinquish a lot of control day to day is tough. My
It's very tough.
good friend of mine, Sean Miller, runs a phenomenal shop, brilliant mechanic, absolutely top, one of the top, probably top 25% within the industry without a doubt with what he can do,
Mm.
solve, the way he runs his shop, everything. And it's, he posted on the industry last week just the pictures of them showing them what they started out with, what the shop started as, and pouring the concrete, a look back kind of retro thing. And I can understand because I've known him quite a while, and we talk a lot. I consider him like he's my brother. I know how hard it is for him to relinquish, like stepping, like he is not a absentee owner. He is not a I'm on the counter, and like he's back in the bay. He's looking. He knows every customer that comes in. He knows every car that comes in. He knows why they're there. He's delegated to the ones that he needs. He feels like it's going to be the best if he handles it. He's back there handling it, killing it. And then
Mm.
he's involved in so many. And I understand by watching him why so many struggle to delegate, to be able to do it. So don't, Eric, don't beat yourself up over it, man. It is something that we all struggle with. It's
I think I think it's the way majority of us are. Now, most of the from what I can tell, at least in the 20% world that we're around, again, those Facebook groups and networking type things, the typical shop owners are technician turned shop owner. Something happened along the way, and then now they're a shop owner. And as a technician, especially, I don't say especially, in my experience, dealer level tech, you're out there fighting for yourself. The only person looking out for you is you at a dealership. And the little bit that you and Brandon were talking that I've gotten through on that episode, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what signs out front or what logo or what comes in the door. It's a dealership environment, and
yeah, it's crazy.
it's
It doesn't matter.
it is.
You talk to everybody in this industry that has that background, and they all have the same, pluses and minuses, the horror stories and the well, what did I take away from that was positive? Well, I learned that product really well. I got fantastic training on that product. I learned it inside and out. But man, they kicked, the culture just, it eats you up. And
It's
that's what,
awful.
yeah. And I mean, and that's what I want to try and keep people, I used to say all the time, if you've never done it, you don't know. And that's, and I still to this day believe that you can't, people just go, oh, they're just, I see it when shop owners, they talk about, they hire a dealer tech, right? And they bring them in to say a shop like yours or a shop like Lucas's or something like that. And they're like, I can't understand why that dealer tech was like that. Or I can't, oh my God, he did this, this, and this, and this. And it's like, you have to understand where they come from. It's a
Mm-hmm.
completely different culture. It's a real adjustment. I'm not sure I've totally adjusted to it,
I
because
don't think you can. I think it's ingrained in you.
yeah, you jump back and forth or you go on, but I think there's still some core things from that. Maybe it's like PTSD from, war or something. You always tend to sometimes think a certain way about a certain issue or a problem or whatever. And it's hard
Mm-hmm.
for me now, even, to not get my back up or not to always be, worried about stuff that I don't even need to worry about anymore because I don't work in a dealer, but it's just, it gets ingrained in you, right? You know what it's like. It's just, you're always
Oh
thinking about,
yeah.
you're always looking at the ebbs and flows of the business up and down. It's not healthy. It's not healthy, you know? And
No, it's definitely not. I think it's good to have some of that experience, maybe as life experience in the dealer, because the one thing the dealer did teach you or taught me, or maybe it was the environment, not the dealership specifically, was hustle. I mean, a flat rate tech, and you had to hustle, and you had to figure out how to be efficient.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to, but your paycheck depended on it. And so a lot of that stuff I think was good to know. Even to this day, I don't notice it myself. But if you pick up an impact with a socket, you're not just pulling out the two bolts in front of you with that 10 mil. You're dancing all over the place because you know that 4 steps down the line or whatever, and you just, especially with a repetitive job and things like that. But you're all these little efficiencies.
Yeah.
That being said, I feel bad for the people that spend their entire career in the dealer.
Yeah.
But but
Yeah.
but we start out there, and then, like I said, it's every man for himself in there. Either that or you're hopefully hopefully those type of people aren't listening to this, but you're ass kissing the dispatcher and
Yeah.
the
No.
service manager to get that gravy fed, and to get some straight time for some of that jobs that you're going to lose on. It's too much politics. Too much politics. Let's just fix the damn car.
That's the thing that always grounded me, because it was like I didn't need any favoritism. I just needed you to hand me, this is what I'm strong at. You need it done. Give me as much of it as you can, and I'll get it done. Happy to do it.
Mm-hmm.
What I didn't want to sit through was the lectures we always got as, comebacks or this, or, we need to be, start time needs to be at 8 o'clock, not 8:15, not 8:20. I'm there at 7:30 every morning, right? Well, why am I sitting in this meeting?
Right.
And it was just, it went on and on and on until it's like, you're all paid as a dog eat dog. You're a number. You got to hustle, like you said. You got to play the game. You got to take what you can. You got to make chicken salad out of chicken shit. Like if they give you a crap job, you got to make it into something. But when it was time to everybody get under the microscope, then we're a team all of a sudden, and we'd sit around and we're like, we know. And it's funny, people don't like to talk about it. Who's getting the comebacks. You see it, right? We're all, as much as hard as you're working, right? You start to recognize what somebody's doing, where they're having struggling, and you're like, oh, he got dispatched that. I'm probably going to see that next week. And sure enough, it was. And it's like, can you come over and look at this? And it's like, that's where I always struggle with, because it's like, what they're asking you to do is go over there and take over that, or bail them out, so that they can go right back to maybe some of the shenanigans, the not so on the level stuff that they do to generate a bunch of hours. And you go back over to your corner and you just do your thing. And that's where I struggle, because it's like, I don't want to be lectured about CSI, and I don't want to be lectured about comebacks. If I'm not having comebacks, I don't want to be up here in this meeting discussing comebacks, right? And that's not to say that I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't.
Right.
Wasn't the problem, right? There's a core group of us that we weren't the problem. And I hated that it was always like the political thing. We all have to get in crap together. Well, no, when it's about, producing as many hours as possible, we all look at it as like, well, if he's not there, that's more work for all of us, is the way we think, right? On the floor. The reality is if he's not there, or that tech's not there, it really backlogs everything and it makes it worse. We need, there's a formula. We know how many techs we need to get the work done. But you look at it and it's like, if they would just stop dispatching him drivability, things would go fine. But they're also like, he wants his numbers. So when there's nothing but drivability, well, let's give him another kick at the can. That's the part with dealerships that I can't stomach anymore. It's not just dealerships, it's shops, period. If you want to work them on where some people are specialized or some people have strengths, let them be strong at it. And how it falls financially is how it falls. And I think that's where we're screwing up some of the, you want to talk about incentivizing people to improve and to make more money. If the heart's transmissions, drivability, if you want to see people start to really go after, if that is lucrative, when it is lucrative in a dealership or in a flat rate scenario, let it be, and let the people show them the motivation. Like give them chances, give them training. I mean, but don't sit there and go, well, we got to keep everybody the same. No. Right.
There's no such Yeah, there's no such thing as that.
Yeah. When I was watching the transmissions fail on the caravans way back in the day all the time, and I was looking at the guys, and they would do one by, they'd start at 8 in the morning, they'd have it, running by 11:30. They'd do another one in the afternoon. They'd walk home at the end of the day with at least 12 hours a day, right?
Huh?
Like a lot of guys walked in and went, wow, I want to do that. I would like to make those kind of hours. Not everybody could do it. Not everybody could, was that fast. And transmissions is a thing. There's a definitely a knack to it. But I always thought, well, it's like that's what incentivizes people to continue to at least try it. You know what I mean? When we all just sit around, where you make it where it's like, well, everybody's got to make around 10. So you can bang that trainee out real fast. We're going to get you a trainee, and then we're going to, not give you work because we got to get him brought up, right? That never sat well with me. I don't want to do somebody's comeback. Unless it's my own, just let me handle my own work. Give me what I'm good at, and stay out of the way.
Yeah, it's that independent.
Yeah.
It's that independent mindset, and
yeah.
But it's hard. It's hard to give a guy a bunch of information or give him the secret sauce or whatever little secrets we have. And I think I've even heard you mention it on some other episodes. Like, you don't want to give him all the answers.
Yeah.
I don't lead a guy to water, but if he can't figure out what to do after that, okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's tough, eh? Like, what do you think about that? Like, so, I mean, as somebody, for you, you're very specialized in what you do. So if somebody calls you up and says, "I got an Allison doing this," you strike me as the type of person that's going to help that person, right? That shop owner, or But how do you know, Eric, when it's or maybe you don't know when it's become detrimental to your bottom line?
We get a ton of that stuff, and frankly have for years and years and years. And one of the things that I did when I first started, excuse me, to get the word out, so to speak, or my marketing was, again, back in those days of the forums.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go in there and I was constantly helping people. The forum tends to attract people with problems, and they're looking for an answer, and then I could provide them with an answer, or at least some advice or some input, or help them work through a problem as much as possible over the internet without having the vehicle in front of you.
Yeah.
And then that, morphed into this day. People will call daily, and a lot of it, and they're scattered all over the country just because we're doing the e-commerce side. So they're looking for answers. Oh, I've had my truck to 3 different places and it's still doing this and da 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 da. And at a certain point, it's like you want to help them because you want that to turn into a sale of whatever item or product or fix or something that they need to take care of the issue. But more and more so, it's harder to do it because the question you ask, you're relying on the guy on the other end to give you the answer. And that just makes it even worse. Now, ultimately, it's like, okay, if you'd like to schedule to bring that in, let's get you in. Let's get you in. Or, hey, you know what? Whatever area of the country you're in, I've got a couple referrals that I can point you to that they can get you taken care of.
Yeah.
But man, there's so many people that's like, oh, okay, well, check this. Yeah, I checked it. Everything's good.
Yep.
Well, what'd you come up with? Oh, everything's within spec. Yep, everything's within spec. Oh, I checked all the wiring 10 times. Or my favorite, I've been doing this 30 years. I know that wiring's good. Okay, that's the first place that I'm looking when you.
Yeah. I checked it.
But the transmissions.
Yeah. I checked, cut open the loom, and all the wires are there.
Yeah.
But I didn't check it. So do you definitely find that it can be an obstacle in the shop making money, for sure.
And yeah, I mean, I don't get pulled away too much on it as much anymore. I've got some people here that will take all those calls, and very seldom do I get on the phone with somebody. And man, I don't like talking on the phone at all. I love texting. I love doing whatever, but man, I don't want to be on the phone. And it's not a bad thing. It's just I don't like to be on the phone. I guess that's what it comes down to. But ultimately, we're always hoping that those calls will turn into a sale, and it might not be that day. But the good in people, you want to think, well, I helped them out. Hopefully, they remember that next time they need something. And
Yeah.
I don't know what the percentage is. Maybe not much, and it probably does cost a lot on the bottom line because those people that are answering those questions on this end, they're getting paid.
Yep.
Ultimately, we just hope it comes full circle.
Yeah.
I don't know how much it really does, but some of that stuff though, we can't fix it over the phone, Mister.
You sell them a part or you sell them a transmission and they call you up. Obviously, that's a different thing, right? You're going to give support, you're going to offer support.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And you want to treat everybody like that because they might not be a customer now, but if they had that good experience, you turn that into something later. And we've had people for years and years and years have supported us because we're able to help them out, and they remember that. And that's the kind of stuff that we all
Yeah.
wish all of our business was that loyalty.
Yeah. It used to happen more at my shop. It doesn't seem to happen as much now. I don't know whether it's just my manager that I have is maybe he's a little bit better at fielding the calls. But it just amazes me still how people will call a shop out of the blue and say, I have this, and it's been to 3 other places and it's still broken. And I talked to this person and they mentioned your shop, and they're not calling to make an appointment. They're calling to ask, well, what do you think it could be? And people used to just light me up because it's still broken. That's what it is. I mean, I can't tell you. You can't put the truck on. You can't put the truck on the phone and have me talk to it. Right? I mean, but that's what people think, and it's like, what's the sense in having a 20-minute conversation? Okay, did you check this? Did you check that? Oh, of course you did check this, because they automatically, just like you said, they go back to you and go, well, of course I checked that. That was the first thing I was told.
Yeah.
That's the first thing Google told me to check. Well, and it's gotten better where it's just about being polite about it. I'm just saying, well, I really need to see the vehicle. If you could just get me the vehicle here, then I could really probably help you out. Because that's like, but that frustrated me for years because as a former dealer tech, it was so like you did not get called hardly ever to answer the phone and talk to somebody that was at another shop about how to fix something, because you weren't getting paid for that phone call. It was, you weren't getting paid. If you weren't getting paid, you do it. So you had to adjust to that, I'm sure. Right.
And those, just like that scenario, that vehicle's been to 3 different shops. So 3 different people of whatever skill set is irrelevant, but they've actually had the vehicle in front of them.
Yeah.
Was able to do whatever testing they want, successful or unsuccessful. Now the next call is, we're expected to figure out what's wrong with the truck over the phone based on information that we don't even know how accurate it is.
Yes.
And sometimes, again, with the pattern failure stuff, or like if you're working on one thing your whole career, you're like, I remember a situation like that. But
yeah,
again, do you give all those answers away? I don't know. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But ultimately, it's to get them as a customer, even if it's just in a parts situation.
Yeah.
It does add a dynamic to it, because on one hand, you want them to bring the truck in, and as soon as somebody says it's been to 3 different shops, that instantly goes to, all right, we're going to need $800,000 up front before we even open the door.
That was
that's just
that was going to be my next question to you, because we've kind of seen that, Brian Pollock, a good friend of ours, and he's talked about how, and Paul Danner, that they're starting to do that retainer where it's like, okay, you're going to bring us a nightmare car. Cool. We're going to work on your nightmare car. We're going to get to the problem, but you're going to have to commit to seeing this through. And that means a financial commitment. So you're obviously on board with that. You think that is just the way it should go.
As soon as I seen that video that Paul had did on that, and I know he's quick to not take the credit for that, and at the moment it escapes me on who he gives that to, and frankly it doesn't matter. The point of it is, I think we all need to embrace it. For years, and I am again poster child guilty of giving it away, because my ego, I had to know what was wrong with that vehicle. I needed to know What was wrong with it? And I think Cecil even covered it in that class. I don't know. The only thing that did is made me feel smarter about myself. What it didn't do is pay to keep the lights on. My ego was getting in the way.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, and if you've been in this situation and you don't believe me, do it. As it turns out, people will pay you for that. And the retainer thing.
Yeah.
Shortly after that, we had a truck come in, just some real weird problems, and I'm like, we need $1,500 up front. And the guy's like, okay, no problem. I need my truck fixed. No problem. Whatever you need, done. And people don't argue with it. And if they do argue with it, you know what? We're probably not going to be the place you want to bring them.
Right.
Because if we're already having a discussion about it now and we haven't even started on it, sorry. Or my pet peeve is when you get something that's been those three other places, and then of course, well, I've spent all this money. It goes back to the dealership experience. Well, the first guy skimmed the gravy off and didn't fix it. Now the guy's mad and he wants it fixed, and I got nothing left but a broke car with very little gravy and a ticked off customer.
Yep.
It's kind of the same deal, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah.
But my God, we need to charge what we're worth. We need to charge what we're worth. I'm terrible. After Vision, labor rates went up.
Good.
Our testing rate went up. I'm one of those. I had no idea what the numbers should be. Like 70% labor. You know, you're looking for that 50 to 60 or maybe 65% on parts, and what your ratio is, and adjusting for that. I just thought, well, we sell the parts for this, and we charge book time, and we were $125 an hour for years.
Mm-hmm.
Years. And well, no wonder we're not making the money on that job, because you don't have the parts to go with it. Okay, so we went from 125 an hour to 215 an hour for testing, any testing, and then learning to not sell hours, sell the service, sell the job.
Yes,
I'm telling you, there's this. I told you earlier, the 6 months has been just mind blowing, and customers don't care. I say that meaning you fix the vehicle, you take care of them, you treat them right, and they will pay it.
I love
they will pay it.
Love hearing that, because I said it for years, right? Like my tagline is, somebody would always ask, well, how many hours should I charge to do this job? And my answer always, it would hammer some people, as much as possible, because it's the go-to answer. Like, really, it's the best go-to answer there is, as much as possible, right? As much as they want to pay, as much as you can get, so that you sleep well at night. That's the answer. People, if you've got a customer that's coming to you and they're breaking it all down, and they know how many hours it's supposed to be to take that transmission out and put it back in, and what blah blah, you don't want that customer. You are selling them a repair, and the repair costs X amount of dollars, and we're going to have it done for you this way. We're going to have it done for you on this date. Sign here. It's really that simple, and people, they don't want to accept that. And I understand. I say it's that simple. There's intricacies and all that kind of stuff. But we've made it way too difficult for way too long, because we've allowed them to dictate to us. Well, I don't want to pay 8 hours labor, or why should I pay 8 hours labor? I know your guy does 10 of these a week. He can do it in 4. That's not the point. I don't care. Right? He does it
But like you said, we've allowed it.
Yes.
We cave. We're trying to do the. We're in our own way as a whole to get past all that. And man, we can't. Everything in this world, and no matter where you live, has gone up in price in the last 36 months. We all know that, whether you blame it on whatever phenomenon you want. And we ain't going there at the moment. It doesn't matter why. It has. And you got to keep up with that.
Mm-hmm.
You got to keep up with that, because whatever I need to go spend my money on has gone up.
Yep.
And if I don't go up, or if we don't charge more, or charge more appropriately, because I don't want to sound greedy, but it's we can't do it.
Yeah. I
We're,
mean, your
we're
people, when they go to the grocery store, when they leave your shop, go to the grocery store, they go buy their groceries, it's all more expensive, right?
mm-hmm.
It's just when they put fuel in their truck, it's more expensive. We have to pay our people better. We just have to. And, that money has to come from the customers. There's just no two ways about it. Because I used to think I was one of them where it was like, oh, the owners are sitting there on a big pile of money and they're holding on to it. They're not giving it, where it should. Man, was I so wrong about that. And for anybody that I ever said that to, I apologize again because I owe you a big apology. But because the situation of at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. I was wrong about that. But the thing is, there's still too much reluctance to get it from your customer. And that's the reality. That's just as simple as it's going to be. That's where it has to come from,
Yeah,
right? We
that's
have
the only place to get it.
yeah, it's we can talk all we want about matrices on parts and stuff like this, and I still see people asking, what's the consensus on bringing in our customer supplied parts? I can't believe we're still having that conversation, but let's have it again. So we have to get it from the customers. It's not just about the matrix; it's the fact that we have to be confidently selling a repair, not selling time. We need to be selling a repair. We need to be selling an inspection. Okay, you want to know the condition of your vehicle from front to back, top to bottom. We can tell you everything that you think you know about it, plus a whole lot more. It's going to cost X. From that, we then determine, okay, let's proceed with, X, Y, and Z for repairs. Let's think about, what's the intended use of this vehicle, right? If I'm going to spec you a
Mm-hmm.
transmission or something like that, what are you going to do with it? Is it just going to be, a daily commuter? Okay, I can set you something up like this. Oh, you're going to work that bugger? It's for me. I look at it like when I'm doing brake jobs and truck and tires on stuff that's being used. The guy that has a 3500 Savannah van with a box van that he loads overweight and jumps around from all over the city doing deliveries all day long. I do not put the same brakes on that thing that I do on, Mrs. Smith that only drives her Camry, 2 days a week, Saturday and
Right.
Sunday, to the grocery store. Mrs. Smith can get a different type of brake. That guy that's using that truck, I got to put the absolute fleet grade, the best stuff that I can put on there because I know it's being used at the top 10% of how people ever thought that thing would be used. He's using it that way and he's using it every day like that. We need to,
And
and
nobody overloads.
no, no, everybody does their maintenance and nobody overloads. He doesn't look at it as like, he doesn't look to me and go, okay, like, brakes should take X amount of hours to do. He knows that when he's driving them into a job site and it comes out caked in mud and the stuff is rotting and rusted, and we love our salt up here, same as you guys. They
Mm-hmm.
fleet customers are great because they don't come to me and go, well, why does that cost so much? They're just like, frig, man, you got it back done same day that you said you'd get it done. It works great. Thank you. And they come in and they sign and everything's good. it
Yeah.
we need to just start approaching it as a job by job, because, and I think again, going back to, like you said, when so many of us have worked flat rate or we worked a dealership, it's all about time. It's still, my mother will still ask me, how long is it going to take to do something? And I immediately go, 1.6, 1.8. Like nowhere else would you step out of the industry and you say to somebody in a time segment, 1.8, they look at you like you're crazy. What the heck is 1.8?
Yeah. And
But it's
that's just how clocks should be set up because we're so used to that.
right.
Like
It's
even
one
when
hour.
you're driving somewhere, oh, how long of a drive is it? 2.2. What?
Yeah, we know what it means, but I mean, we we have to stop selling time just to sell the repair. Just sell the repair. They got a transmission that won't shift. Sell them the repair. It's a testing and diag that was.
Mm-hmm.
I find that we're getting better about people that are selling the repair. But what do you obviously don't do free diag at your shop at all, right? No.
You know what? I'd be lying if I said no,
All right.
because we still we free diag altogether. No, we're not doing anything free. That doesn't mean we're charging for everything.
Yeah.
Again, I'll use the 6 months ago thing. Yeah, we get an hour up front, and 4 hours later, sometimes we'll have the answer. Well, we just gave that away.
Right.
I've got a younger guy that's a year out of school, and I oftentimes forget how young he is because we've literally thrown him to the wolves.
Mm-hmm.
And I try and work side by side with him, and we're trying to. He's got dirt under his fingernails, and he works on his stuff at home, and so he's already okay, good. But you want to walk those guys through. Again, we're trying to bring this next generation up, and him and I'll spend maybe 2-3 hours on something, but from an educational standpoint, but I can't charge a customer that.
Right. Yes.
So in that respect, yeah, we're not charging for everything, but we're still getting better at charging a fair price for the service. I'm not yet a fan of, we've spent 2 hours, we need to call and get more time. Well,
yeah.
We're not watching it that close.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. Again, I think that's fair if you can say that you've spent legit 2 hours doing that. Or I'm sorry, 2 hours of time times whatever the charge is, $400.
Mm-hmm.
But if you got a half hour of, lollygagging and 10 minutes of pooping or 20 minutes of pooping or whatever, and then you took a call and then you had a smoke break, well, you got an hour in it, but you got 2 hours of time covered. And I still have that little bit of, I want to make sure that we're giving what we're asking for.
Yeah.
And again, that's probably the shop owner or the technician turned shop owner side of me, because there isn't a coach out there that'll say that having the owner on the front counter is a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Or the technician turned owner. And I'm once in a while I'll slip. I'll be like, oh yeah, we ain't gonna charge you all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also the same one that's gonna say, no, we ain't touching that for less than a retainer fee.
Yeah.
It's just charge what we're worth. Charge what we're worth.
Yeah.
Charge for the job. You fix it, great.
It's tough. I see it all the time with my shop, because it's when you're doing the fleet stuff or you're doing repeat customers, you become known, right? So it's like you kind of, how do you do that where it's like you don't feel like you owe them a break, right? Because they've been loyal. Like, I mean, do we reward loyalty with discount? Is that a right thing to do in this business? Because I understand why it gets done, but then if you look at so many of the obstacles that sometimes this industry has, it's because when we think like that, we reward loyalty with a discount or a freebie or something like that. It's almost an untrackable thing, right? Because it's like you can get into it and you go, well, that's part of my marketing, or that feel good feeling that they have. It's one of my things is like when I see somebody going out in the parking lot with a scan tool and they're going to just scan it real quick, and I still that just irks me, because I mean, from my experience of the dealer, that's 0.6 minimum. 0.6 minimum to hook the back in the day, and Chrysler, the DRB3 up was 0.6 to hook it up anything as soon as it was retail. Warranty didn't pay that, but it was 36 minutes. Once you got allotted, and I'd see them go at the service advisor, grab this, $10,000 scan tool, and he'd truck out to the drive-through and he'd plug it into the car. And I know why he was doing it, because maybe we just worked on it for something totally unrelated. Say we just did brakes on it, and then the light pops on a week later. Brake job's not going to cause a check engine light to come on normally. Now,
not usually, no.
No, right? But so if we immediately whack them with, okay, well, that was, that's going to be $79.95 just to tell you why the light's on. I understand why we do it, but I mean, when you go out there and it's like, it's an oxygen sensor code. Well, that person now just knows, okay, it's really hard to sell for them when they come in next week to say, okay, so we're going to have to charge you $79.99 for a diag on an oxygen sensor, and go through the steps to make sure that it is a sensor and all that jazz. But you know how it is. Most of the time it's got a bad heater and it's just an O2. It's really hard to sell them that $80 when he whacked out there and hooked the machine up and in 6 minutes spit out a number that said, hey, you got an oxygen sensor, blah, blah, blah. So that's where I was always like, the freebie thing, it's such the forefront of how do we make it work in this industry? Because I know that we have to. I know I've accepted that you do have to do things for your customers. to make the sale or whatever. But man, that's tough, right? Because it's really hard to pay for that tool when you're doing,
Uh-huh.
when you're doing code scans like that. And I don't like to say it's a diag, it's a code scan, but we know a lot of the time it's going to roll into just an oxygen sensor and you're going to roll out and it's done. When you're dealing with the other things, nightmare cars or stuff like that, I immediately, I wish that more people, when they come to you and they say, hey, my light's on again. On again should mean, okay, I'm not going to walk out there with a tool. I'm immediately going to go to plan B,
Right.
which is sell you some time. When we say, okay, I got a light on, if the customer's not so forthcoming, we may go out there and hook that up and, oh, look, I got all 4 oxygen sensors making codes. And then the guy goes, yeah, it's been doing that. And, I got 4 oxygen sensors off of, eBay or Rock Auto, and I put them all in, and,
Right.
Bosch was $10 cheaper than whatever the Denso that's supposed to be in there. And friggin' thing's still doing these codes. What do we do now? Well, we just kind of screwed up because, right, if we'd have maybe done a little bit more right there with the customer, we'd be selling, that $200 or $400 retainer instead of just now trying to make a pitch at, okay, our diag rate is, $100 an hour. Let's even easy math. And we normally would start on this. Yeah, 3 hours. And they go, what? You just hooked it up and scanned it and told me that I still got oxygen sensor codes. This is where I'm on the fence about how do we, and this is one of those things that I keep trying to in my head, is there a solution to it? I think there is. I just don't know what it's going to be yet.
It's a mindset. It's a mindset. The solution is, to be blunt, we quit doing it. We've all been to the dentist, to the doctor, to some other type of service, and Cecil's said it in his class. You go to the dentist, that's probably the highest paid anything that you're going to go to. You sit in that chair an hour for a crown, and it's $1,800.
Yeah, yeah.
And we don't think twice about it. Now, maybe that's because, we have dental insurance and it picks up half the bill. We have an extended warranty on our mouth, or we have an extended warranty, aka health insurance, whatever that is. If you're going in and, we need to get you to the ER or a specialist and run some tests. I don't know. I'm not a healthcare worker, but if they said you need a CAT scan, you ain't gonna say, I ain't paying for that. Hell no. Just what's the next best option? We do it all the time as humans, but I think our industry's allowed it. We've done it. We've done all those parking lot diags or code scans, and then we've done it to ourselves. And I'm not against going out there, plugging in and not diagnosing it or not giving the answers, but okay, what are we up against? Is this something that bring it in this afternoon, or you know what, we're going to need some time on this, or neither? At least to give you a heads up. And I'm not going to, I don't know. The more I'm sitting here talking about it, the more I can think of examples where I have done that. Well, it's probably not much major, this gasser world. What do you guys call them? EVAP codes.
Yes.
Where the gas cap thing. Maybe it's that simple. Click. Okay.
Yep.
That's the kind of stuff, in whatever scenario you want to use. I think we've all done it.
Well, I look at it like this. Like, I've never in my life seen where it's like, okay, I had a filling put in by Dr. Smith 6 months ago. This is hypothetical. This is, I haven't had a filling 6 months. Yeah. And then I'm out of town and my tooth starts to hurt and I go see Dr. Johnson. And I walk and I make the appointment. I walk into the office and I don't just walk in and the receptionist and I say, okay, I just had this filling done 6 months ago. I just want to know if the thing is okay to drive back to Mr. Smith. Can somebody look at my filling real quick? Dr. Johnson, he doesn't come out from behind, the wall and real quick and shine a flashlight in my face and right in the waiting room and look at my filling, right? It doesn't work like that. But yet we're supposed to do it, It's expected. And I've had great conversations with so many people, and I know that as long as they operate a shop, they're going to do it that way, and God bless them. But I just remind them that we're the only one we're the only industry that does that. We are the only one.
We are.
We don't.
We are.
The dentist doesn't come out there and let me just give this one in the chair a shot of Novocaine. Dumb them down for another 2 minutes. I'm going to come out there with a flashlight and I'm going to tilt your head real back, say off for me, and I'm going to check in there real quick. We don't do that. They don't not do that. Why do we? Don't need to. I don't think anyway. I think it's just like, you bring me a car in, okay, it's doing X, Y, and Z. Cool. All right. I think I can get to the bottom of that. When can I book you in? I think that's as far as the conversation needs to go. Because like when you coming around to your evap thing, I made a lot of money working on evap codes. That was my bread and butter. We had a lot of them. I was good at them. Pattern failure, knew it inside and out. I knew the system. I knew every cheat to make this system run the test. Guys are like, oh, you just lived with that smoke machine. Man, I hardly ever used that sucker. I used it to prove the filler neck was rusted, and that was it. The rest of the time, it was visual and using the scan tool. So what always irked me is we go out there and we'd scan that car and it's just an evap fault. Don't worry about it because it's not going to cause the car to run any worse and blah 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 blah. We did that for years, and then the customer all of a sudden they get a transmission fault, and now it's logging a P0700 on the ECM side, and then the TCM's got a fault in it. They don't know that because the torque converter, it ain't locking up anymore, but they just think the light's been on forever because they don't want to replace their filler neck, or they don't want to replace their valve or whatever. And all of a sudden now that tranny's burning up because it's not staying locked right when it's supposed to. And something that could have been fixed or given, we took the warning system out of the car by saying it's just $100 vent valve. Don't bother fixing it. The car's going to run fine. And all of a sudden we took that engineered warning system and we disregarded it down to nothing. Don't worry about it. It's just a nuisance light. Piss on it. Don't worry about it.
Just put some tape on it.
Right? So now all that other system that's engineered by people way smarter than all of us to give people notice to say, hey, that we've told them, don't pay it any mind at all. That's the part that always drove me crazy with evap, right? It's because it's like, I would see these cars come in. It's like, I'd do a safety inspection, right? Or I'd do pre-purchase safety. And it's like, oh, that light's always been on. Well, what's it? Oh, it's just a gas cap. You scan it. It's got an oxygen sensor that's doing nothing. It's got, a transmission fault. It's got a catalyst is misfire. And it's like, well, maybe 3 years ago, it was just a gas cap. But all the other stuff that's now happened is not giving you any warning at all. It drove me nuts when people just disregarded it. So I wish we would stop doing that industry. Like, if it's supposed to turn on a light, let's treat it as it's important and let's start charging for it.
It's broke.
Yeah.
It's broke. If the light comes on, it's broke.
Eric. It doesn't matter if it's TPMS drives me nuts, right? You see that. Cars come in, TPMS late, and the customer's like, I don't have to fix that. It's like they want $80 for a tire sensor plus programming. Like, I just put a rubber valve stem in it, right? Like, piss on them. That drove me nuts because first of all, we're taking money that we could be making and we're throwing it out the window. And then secondly, we're telling the customer that it's okay to cheap out. I don't want to do that anymore. So
yeah, you're right, because we do. We give them permission to accept that light being on, and all they need to hear, I think, as we're talking through, they bring it in because the light's on.
Yeah,
they bring it to us, the expert, and we tell them, don't worry about it. So they've got permission to ignore it, and that's stuck in their head. So like you said, from here on out, we don't. What else is wrong? And we just. God, we did it to ourselves as a whole, not any one person, whatever. But it is where we as an industry we can't do that anymore. And I think this is going to be one of those things that we'll never fully solve. I'd like to think that we could someday. You call out the furnace guy or air conditioning guy at your house. He's going to charge you a trip call, whatever.
Yep.
And you're not going to think twice about it. He's going to, oh, you need this. And you're not going to think twice about it. And you need this. And you're not going to think twice about it. And maybe people do, but probably not going to beat him up over the price to get your air working.
Yep.
Maybe people do. I don't know. But point is, I think people just expect to do it with their automotive repair or that type of thing because It's happened for so long.
I don't think people get beaten up in that business too much until at least they've already got paid for the service call, and they've come in and they said, okay, I looked at your AC unit and the fan's junk. The fan's going to cost you X amount of dollars. They've already got paid for that service call to come in. Now they might want to start to dicker and whine and all that kind of stuff about, oh crap, like that fan, like how much does that fan cost, and how long is it going to take you to put in, and like you got a minimum charge here 2 hours for a service call, but you're going to put that fan in 40 minutes. Why should I pay 2 hours? I think what they do better than us is they've already got some dispatched person there contracted out to go and look at your broken piece of equipment, whether it's, I liken it to tow trucks. It's the same thing. Nobody argues with a tow truck driver anymore when they show up. They've made the call. They're told when they get there it's going to be X amount per mile, and it's going to cost you blah 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 for us to get to you and hook up. When you get there, it's already done. Why in this industry do we allow it to be where it's like, I know why, because it comes back to that time thing, right? Just as the same as, like you said, everything is about time. We got to stop selling time. We think so much in time that it's like, oh, it's just 5 minutes, right? It's only going to take me 5 minutes. It's only going to take me 10 minutes to talk to this customer on the phone. Well, Cecil talks about if you add up all those 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. And that's the part that I always couldn't understand, is because there's so many. Why is it that so many techs that go into business where they were flat rate, they worked in a dealer, like every tenth was, you could tell you to the nickel. If I'm getting paid X amount per hour and I break that down into tenths, say $35, so it's $350. Right? Like I just gave away $350 if I spent 6 minutes, right? Well,
Yeah.
Why do we do that? Well, because all of a sudden, I think when we come into a business, we're told we have to start doing that. We have to start giving it away in order to drive some business in. And they're probably right. We probably do. But I wonder if
it's a part of this weird marketing plan that we didn't know we signed up for.
Yeah, exactly. But I just wonder if it's ever a shadow that we ever get out from underneath, so it's
I think it's a and the longer we do it, it's it's hard to break a habit.
Yeah.
And I can speak from experience. I don't even realize some of the stuff that we did, or frankly we do, that we're like, oh, we just gave that away. Why did we do that? And some of it's conscious. You, for whatever reason, you might that, but you go to a restaurant, you order off the menu. The menu gives you all the pricing up front. Now, granted, it's cut and dried. You're not sure what you're going to face when you order that, but we just pay the price. We just pay the price. But I think being upfront about it is the key. We have to say, okay, we'll get to the bottom of that, and it's our testing charge is X dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Or the retainer thing. To me, the retainer thing is genius, because I don't know a lawyer out there.
Yeah.
That is not going to hit you with that up front. I don't care. I mean, if you're going into something, they're getting a retainer fee, and they're not even going to talk to you.
They don't even
until
answer.
That check is in their hand. No. Okay. Yeah. Yep. That's it. Okay. We can take that on. So the first thing we need is $3,000. And then once we get that, then we will schedule the time, and we'll go over.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else. Not like, okay, well, you agreed to it. I'm sure the check's in the mail. No, not happening. And like the whole plug into the car thing, and it's like you said, if you go, some of these guys have got multiple different scan tools, and I'm in this little corner of, we just fix one car line.
Yeah.
And I don't laugh in a negative way, but it's like, I don't know how people keep up with so many different things. We do one thing, and I just keeping up with the changes year over year. Now, oh yeah, we do the big three, and then we do 4 different import lines, and then we do this, and I have no idea how people do it. I really don't. So the people out there that are doing all that different stuff and successful at it, my hat's off.
Yeah.
I do one thing, and that's it.
Yep.
I've
When you look at Brian Pollock's scanner drawer, right? Like, I mean, and that's just a scanner drawer. It's like I
yeah.
posted from Royal Auto Services last week, and it was like, their scanner room, and it's $50,000, which he was fibbing on the number. It was way more than that. But I mean, it was like, we shouldn't be. Well, I'm pretty sure if they're got $100,000 worth of scan tool in a room, they're not going out and plugging something in real quick in a parking lot. I guess is my.
Mm-mm.
Now, when you said habit, is it safe to say for you the new habit is going to be going to vision?
I will. I don't know. No. Yes. Absolutely. To answer your question, I will be at Vision every year from here until I'm out of this business.
Love
And
it.
I think ASTE is in September. I will be at ASTE. There was the opportunity to go to ETI. I know Brian had went, and Lucas and David, and I don't know, a handful of other guys. I wasn't really sure if that was something for me
Mm-hmm.
leading up to it, but I even asked Brian, I'm like, was it worth it? Would you do it again? And he goes, oh yeah, definitely. Now he's
Yeah,
a celebrity and a big shot, but
he is. He is honestly. Yeah.
he
Yeah.
is. And it's funny because the more him and I talk, and when I say talk, it's through Messenger or sending a voice message back and forth.
Yep.
I'm convinced we're not only related, we're somehow brothers. We might not have grew up in the same house, but I don't know. It's the same stuff. I mean, it kind of started out with, well, we're watching this old house reruns,
Yeah.
which is completely random. But that just goes to so many different things, and he's so relatable. He's so relatable, and like I said, I'll go to the grave thinking that him and I are related somehow. I'm
Well,
convinced of it. So I
there
look.
there's definitely some similar mannerisms between you and him. It is kind of uncanny right now. And he joked about that too last week. We were talking about it. He's like, Eric and I we met, and we're kind of convinced that we might be related.
Oh yeah, totally.
And I mean, you can't ask for a better person to be related to if that is the case. He's a super dude. I mean, him and I talk just about every day about, and it's just it's not always about the shop. It's just, but it's a lot of it is we've had several years now of like sometimes 20-minute rants back and forth messenger, because I just click on and I start going. It's kind of like this. And he'll come back and he'll be like, "Oh man, I know exactly what you're feeling like in this." And then it's been so therapeutic, right, to be able to have that outlet. And I think that that's getting back to it is what these when we all talk about the networking, right? And they put you go to these training events and it costs X, Y, and Z, and it's a lot of money, and you miss out on this. The networking is something that I think is just you can't put a value on. And I think the therapeutic aspect of it, right, of being able to say, just like you said, you went there division, and all of a sudden you're sitting in a room full of people that are just like yourself. You're not alone. They make the same mistakes you make, right? They face the same struggles that you face.
Right.
It's that's how we get over this hurdle that I think we're currently sitting on is just
Having that
work. Yep. Yep. I mean,
having that sounding board or that networking thing. I have no idea what I spent to go to Vision, and I don't mean that in any type of an ego or bragging way. I don't know what it cost to go there. $800-900 for the tickets, and we flew in the rental car and the hotel, whatever.
yep.
I'm not remembering any of that 3 months later, 4 months later, but I remember the connections I made, and the group of us in the diesel industry. We've got this messenger group. We kind of we don't jokingly call ourselves, but we call ourselves the Vision Kings. And there's 6 or 7 of us in there, and we were all at Vision, and we've got a few people that I don't want to say let into the group because it's just a messenger group. It's not over the top, but people that we really didn't know each other up until that, we're lifelong friends. I mean, we're 3 months in, 4 months into this, but we are absolutely lifelong friends. And guys like Brian and you and Lucas, and so many people that, I can't wait to meet
Right?
and listen.
Yeah.
Dutch is one of those guys that I want him to yell at me for something just to say that I've had Dutch give
Yeah.
me direction
Yeah.
and be around this stuff, Cecil and that whole group of things. And it's like, man,
That
the friendships, the networking, the sounding board,
that
you're missing out if you're not doing it.
Yeah. Dutch's episode will come out in mid-July, I think, is tentatively when it's going to drop. And I met him at ASTE. I've told the story a couple times now. I met him at ASTE. It was the first time I met him. I talked to him once or twice before that in the group, but I hadn't met him. I'd seen his name in IATN for years. I knew of Dutch easily 10 years before.
Okay.
I did not. It doesn't matter how much you hear about him or what you know. You're not prepared until you meet him. What that man brings to any conversation, it doesn't matter. He has one of those personalities, and he's on another level of intellect. That's as close as I can say. He's just on another level. He is one of the most well thought and well spoken people I've ever been around in this industry. In being able to put his thoughts into a way that's effective and efficient, and he makes you listen, right? And he doesn't, everything he says, when he says it, he means it, and it's not just a theory. He's proven it. He's done it. And it's we need more of him. We need more of all of us, but we need more of him with that kind of attitude where it's like, he is 100% in his convictions on how he does his business and how he treats his customers and how he treats his staff. It's unwavering. He will not steer from that. That is what, at his core, is what it's about. And I respect the heck out of him. I mean, it's so. Lucas is the same. Lucas is exactly the same. David as well. They're just like, we started out with this podcast. They breathe so much life into me, wanting to do this, wanting to do better, right? That's because otherwise I was just a grouchy shit. That's all I was. Just a.
We all were. We were flat rate guys, for God's sakes. We spent years in the dealer.
Yep.
We were bred to be efficient, whiny bitches.
Yep. And now I see so much more potential, right, Eric? It's just I see it, and I want to see it. Like you said, lifelong friends, man. That's what I want to see. If you come away from Vision and that's all you get out of it, man, that's still something, right? If you go to Vision and it's like you don't take any of the advice, which I can't think that anyone will. You sit through all the classes and you go, "Oh, I already knew that. I already knew that. You didn't tell me anything there. I knew how to diagnose." Yeah, sure. But if you go through, but if you come away from Vision with one lifelong friend, think about what that means in the greater scheme of things. It's huge, huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's I hope to make it for sure. Like I said, I'm trying to get to Apex and I'm trying to get to ASTE. So it's just I'm still an employee. I'm not a boss, so it's harder to get away. But yeah, as long as my schedule.
So when you go to those events, does that come out of Jeff's pocket, or does your employer kick in for that, or how does that work on your side of things?
My employer does not kick in for that.
Okay.
It's so I schedule my holiday time, and financially I'm on the hook for it. So now as this podcast starts to generate some, a few pennies here and there, that helps out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I'm jealous of the guys that can go to a lot of these events. I really am. And it's not, they're not braggarts about it. They're not like, they deserve to be there. They get a lot out of it. They bring a lot to it. Right. But I mean, I understand where this, because, my shop owner, it's a small scale. You know what I mean? Like, for me to go and say, I want you to fund that and pay for it and all that kind of stuff, that's a chunk of profit right there for, if he was to send me that, that's like, there's a bunch of money. Now, I know that, we hear people talk about, well, you just have to adjust your rates then, and it should be a team building experience. And I get all that. I'm not saying they're wrong. It's just it can't always work for everybody. And but I think that everybody in the industry should at least go to one, because I mean, it changed your life. I haven't met someone yet who didn't go to one of those events that hasn't said it changed their life. They all say the same thing. It changed my life. It put me on a different path in my career. Man, that's a drop in the bucket, you know. So
well, it is, and it shows another level of commitment
mm-hmm.
to do it like what you do, as the out of pocket. It's all these trips are out of pocket,
mm-hmm.
in whose pocket makes a huge difference, because shop owners, we like to, we're going to justify it. We'll do this. It's a write off. It's this, that, and the other thing. You don't, somebody in your situation, that's way more commitment to that than a shop owner's given, because that's, like you said, you're scheduling your vacation time around it. You're picking up the bill for it. And that to me is probably more powerful than, my boss is sending, 6 of us, and we're just, we're going to go screw off in Kansas City for the weekend. I mean, that might be what it seems like to some, but and that you're feeling that on a different way, I guess. There's a tech here locally that works at a shop up the street, Rosema's, and recently, well, back to the original part of the story. So Andrew had sent himself, and Andrew's a younger guy that's just really exactly what we want for the next generation. But he paid his way to ASTE last year, and he was telling me at some of these training stuff that we do locally that that was just mind blowing to him, and he paid the bill.
Yeah,
young guy, I don't know exactly how old he is. It doesn't matter, but that's a big commitment for a young guy to do that. And that's awesome. I wish it didn't have to be that way. I don't know how to. I mean, yeah, there's scholarships and different things like that, but man, it's so worth it in the end. I'm sure he probably doesn't really remember exactly what it cost, and then you went to ASTE, but you remember all the experiences you took away from it. I think that's the thing that people hopefully put more thought into than, I don't want to spend the money, which I get it. I 1,000% get it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the stories of vision. What I shut my whole shop down, and there's 10 of us here.
Yeah,
and I'm not a mathematician, but it doesn't take long to figure out that's not a cheap trip. And then you look at, now you're shut down for 4 days, and your revenue's gone, and this, and that's a commitment. That is a commitment. But I would, like you said, I think it would be unfair to think that those people didn't see the value in it, big picture.
So when you go this year, will you take some of your staff with you this time?
I would like to take as many of them as I think will get benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what I mean by that, and maybe I'm not thinking clearly on this, is we kind of talked earlier. The service side of things is only part of the business. We have the large, the e-commerce and the manufacturing and that type of thing is higher percentage of the business than services at the moment. But I think everybody needs to go to something like that. And maybe there's something that might be better suited, a similar type event for a different area of the business.
Yep.
But maybe not. I mean, at Vision, there was all sorts of those classes. There was some accounting type stuff and bookkeeping type stuff. My wife went to one of Hunt's classes and picked up all sorts of information. And there probably is something there for everybody. I'm trying to figure out how to answer your question and talk through it at the same time. So just ignore me for a second. But I think it would be beneficial for most of the people in the organization to attend that.
Yeah.
But or something like that.
I challenge everybody that says that they can't afford it or that it costs too much to just think about what we talked about earlier, which is every time then that we go out and we do that little code scan for free or something like that, think about that money just as if, we all got a swear jar, or we all know what a swear jar is. Just treat it like a swear jar. Every time you were going to do that one job or one little 5 minute, 6 minute, 3/10, whatever you want to call it, and you're not going to charge, just think about if you put that money in the jar, could you take yourself to vision? If you can, then start putting that friggin' money in the jar tomorrow, right? And get yourself to vision. I think,
I think
then we can't make the excuse anymore.
I think that initiative is great. We need to get Paul to make a video on it because he's really good at them, and probably some other guys are too. But and I'm joking. If he hears this and breaks the video, great, because that way you and I don't have to. But do it. I love it. You plug that scanner in on a car that doesn't have a ticket on it. Pick a number. How much are we putting in that jar? $20 bucks? $25 bucks? $50 bucks?
Yeah. If you figure easy math, $100 door rate, if you do it for 0.25, like a quarter, it's $25 bucks. So if you spend 15 minutes out there and you don't charge $25 bucks, man, think about if I put $25 every time that I didn't charge, and I did that 4 times in a week, which, let's be real, we probably, there's some shops out there that probably do it 4 times a day. You're putting a couple hundred in every week. It ain't long, and you're paying for somebody's trip. So that's what I want to leave it with is everybody think about that. If you think you can't afford it, look at where you could be maybe charging for something that you're right now for doing for free. And instead of, putting it back in as profit, or, profit's not a bad word. Instead of just, buying maybe a shop equipment or something like that just, maybe makes the job just a bit faster, think about a trip like that. Think about a trip to Vision. Because, Eric, it changed your life. I didn't make a division. I made it to ASTE. It changed mine. Like I just said, we haven't met a person yet who's, when they've been to one of those events, it didn't change their lives. If we're going to start changing the industry, let's start changing lives, and let's start doing it by getting our people to these events. So,
and it's so hard to do if we can't. We can talk till we're blue in the face about the value in it, but man, they only got to get there once. You know what? The first year, don't bring the whole crew. Just bring yourself, whatever yourself is in that organization. Just go. I almost guarantee the next event or the following year, you're going to have part or all of your crew there. You just will.
Yeah. I think, and you can, if you want to give the credit to the fact that, it's like the very first one that you go to, you realize you come home and you put your rates up and you make this little change, that all of a sudden that's where the money comes in. That's where the money comes from to be able to take more of your crew. Right. And I think it's, we're talking about that. We haven't even touched on what it does to fire up some of the other members of your staff. We're always going to have people that they just don't want, they may have no interest in it. Right. They don't care. They might not have the effect on them that it has on other people. That's okay. It doesn't make them less valuable in this industry or less valuable in the business. But man, we got to start, firing up these people that really want to, when you see a guy that just lives and breathes this stuff, you know what I mean? And what you can take them and show them at that kind of thing. Brian talked about it when he took his kids a couple months back there. If we can get that happening, we can start to solve this technician shortage. I really think we can. I think it'll keep some of them that are thinking about getting out and going somewhere else. I think it keeps them in shops. And I mean, if what's that worth? You can't put a price on it. What's that worth is keeping a quality tech in your shop. You can't put a number on it.
No, not. And in our lifetime, we're not going to see an end to that shortage on any aspect of it.
No. Well, Eric, I want to thank you, man. I think we'll wrap it up right there. It's I was looking forward to this one because I haven't had a chance to connect with you too much, and I was looking forward to it, and we'll definitely do it again for sure. So
when I think Lucas and Brian had said something about Jeff wants to record with you, I'm like, what do you want to talk to me for? I got nothing. but it's awesome to do it. Because just listening to some of your stuff on those other podcasts and just watching how you post, I'm like, I like this guy, I can see we're relatable. There's a lot.
I'm not as abrasive as everybody first thought I am, which is a good thing. It's
No, but it's good to set a standard up front and then just come in soft on the back.
for sure. I appreciate
Yeah.
your time, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, sir. You have a
All
good
right,
night.
thank you. You too.